Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here. You know who it is, internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for our best and worst tracks of the week segment, where I recommend to you guys a bunch of tracks I enjoyed from this past week, tell you guys what tracks underwhelmed me, sort of just was kind of meh on, and the tracks that I thought were the worst tracks of the week. Let's start things negative, because who doesn't love a little negativity to start? With the worst tracks, then we'll get into the meh tracks, then we'll get into the best tracks, the tracks that were best in my opinion. Of course, because this is all subjective, fam. All right, worst tracks of the week. We have a handful over here, quite a few tracks fighting for this number one worst track of the week spot. Let's hear the runners up. We have the new Against Me song, Crash, which is an okay tune. I think it's a little basic and power poppy by Against Me standards, which is kind of saddening. But maybe what rubbed me the wrong way the most about this song was the music video. I've never cringed so hard at Against Me, to be honest. I'm not quite so sure if it was the jumping around, sort of wiggle style dancing all over the music video, or the fact that I can't quite figure out what they were trying to do with the whole face paint thing. Like, one member looks like Kiss. Laura looks like Ozzy Osbourne. I'm not really sure what what they were trying to do with this music video. It's a migraine and a half, but still not the worst track of the week. Not the worst track of the week. Moving on, getting closer to that though, the new No Age track, Separation. Unfortunately, No Age kind of sounds like they're not really trying, much like they were on their last album, unfortunately. So not really sure how to take this track. It's just another really underwhelming and disappointing No Age song. And then we have the new Jimmy Eat World track, Get Right, which sort of takes the band's original sound, or the sound that we remember them for in the 2000s, and tosses it in the trash, and instead gives us this overly dramatic, melodic, and shimmery and showy mix that sounds like something Coldplay would use, much more than a band from sort of the Jimmy Eat World sort of pop rock and emo rock era. It's kind of a Coldplay effect. I think all these bands are come through and they're like, oh, let's just try to sound like the most popular rock band today and just sound, really showy and huge and dramatic. Even though that's not really our style, we'll just attempt that. And the worst song of the week actually does that very same thing. It is the Sum 41 song, War. Terrible song, not only awful lyrics, really just trite, cloying chorus, but also trying even harder than this Jimmy Eat World track to be really just over the top and dramatic and shimmering, when Sum 41, that's never really been their style. I would have respected much more if they just tried to do the whole pop punk thing again and threw a rap rock verse in there for good measure. But instead, they're trying to do this overly showy and emotional thing, and it just doesn't sound all that great, Just sounds mediocre, unfortunately. But moving on to the tracks that I was kind of indifferent toward, I could certainly understand people enjoying these tracks much more than me. They're not awful, but they're still songs that you might enjoy, and there's still songs that you just might like more than me, that's all. The new Thundercat track was kind of on the fence with this cut. Bus in the Streets, it's kind of got that 80s, 70s R&B and funk and soul meld to it that a lot of his songs tend to have, but since his debut record, his production, just the instrumentals and the mixing just don't really sound that fantastic. And also just the amazing elements of improvisation that I hear with his band during his live shows are just not showing up in his music at all. I mean, I guess it's great that it gives you something to be surprised about in the live setting, but it's something that I would love to hear on his actual records. But hey, this track might sound better in the context of the record, I guess. Was sort of underwhelmed by the new Angel Olsen song too. Angel Olsen, singer-songwriter, can be kind of hit or miss for me. And this track, Sister, it's not one of the more eccentric and bold and in-your-face garagey tunes that I've enjoyed from her as of late. It's one of these sort of despondent and bland, spacious acoustic tracks that sound like something that would be pressed onto a 7-inch single that you would get a free copy of if you had like 12 marks on your Urban Outfitters punch card or something. And moving on from there, we have American Football with I've Been Lost for So Long. People have been asking me to review this new American Football track, asking me what I think about this new American Football track. I think it's kind of middle of the road, guys. I think it's pretty underwhelming. Nothing really all that special about this track. It sounds super clean to the point where I don't know. I mean, American Football, they never really had a dirty sound, but it sounds so sanitary to the point where it's like an adult contemporary rock track and not the passionate, fiery, and emotionally captivating emo that they were known for in the 90s. And if this track is indicative of what's going to be on the rest of the record, I'm going to be pretty uninterested in it, to be honest. So this track, nothing really all that great about it, in my opinion. Also pretty underwhelmed by the new Meshuggah song, Born in Dissonance. I mean, Meshuggah comes through with another melodically deficient riff on a weird time signature. I don't know, are we supposed to be amazed and blown away by this same formula that the band has been rehashing again and again and again for multiple albums up until this point? I don't know. And finally, the new Darkthrone track. You know, this track just barely scraped into this category. It's not a bad track. It's not a terrible track. You know, I'm failing to sort of see what's all that special about it, but it is a pretty decent performance. It does sound rough around the edges. They do kind of bring their more traditional black metal sound back. Their past couple of records have had more of a heavy metal vibe to them. This sort of sounds like a more pure form of black metal, or they're just going more in that black metal direction. The vocals are rough as hell. Some of the riffs are pretty decent, although they are sort of slow and really brooding and ominous. Definitely give it a shot if you've enjoyed a lot of that old school black metal stuff, or if you've enjoyed Darkthrone's past efforts. Don't miss this track. All right, as far as the songs that I ended up enjoying this week, got to give it to Young Thug with the song Wyclef Jean, Young Thug, or Jeffrey. A lot of you guys are asking me to review his new record. Going to be doing that very soon, I promise you. And this song, he does like a reggae thing on the instrumental, and he doesn't sound that bad doing it. I was pretty surprised with his versatility here. Usually Young Thug just kind of goes through the motions and puts out the same track again and again and again. But here he really surprised me. So kudos to him on that. Kudos to him on that. Also, Rae Jepsen with the song Higher. Rae has come out with a B-sides collection from her fantastic album Emotion that dropped not too long ago. And these songs sound like even more 80s bliss than the record that she just dropped. I don't know what it is about this 80s pop stuff that Rae, she just is complimented by it so well. Lots of artists, especially these underground indie artists, they try to rehash this whole 80s thing. They sound terrible doing it. For whatever reason, Carly, it's probably the good songwriting. Sounds fantastic. So I'm probably going to be covering this B-sides collection pretty quickly. So make sure to give a listen to this track as soon as you can. Rae, Higher. Fantastically catchy song. Dolla with Zaddy. This is a very catchy and modern R&B track, very moody. I'm liking what Ty is doing with his music right now. I mean, there were so many great highlights from his last record that even though there were songs that really underwhelmed me, I was really looking forward to seeing what he would do on his next project, because there's certainly an incredible amount of potential there. God damn, Horses in the Stable. Such a goddamn good song. All right. Also, Ulcerate with Extinguished Light. Oppressively heavy atmospheric sludge track here. Super progressive, technically sound, and very cool linear song structure on this track. It's dizzying. It's like a dissension into hell. Moving on, Clipping with Air 'Em Out. This new single from the experimental rap trio is much more accessible than their last single. Still trying to wrap my head around this one. This track sort of seems a little bit more along the lines of the catchier cuts off of their last record. So definitely looking forward to hearing more cuts like this on the new album. Not that Clipping can't experiment or anything like that, but I at least like to have tracks like this to be sort of home bases throughout the record, to be like, okay, here's a few avant-garde songs, and here's a few tracks that you can really kind of knock your trunk to and just really kind of turn up the bass and whatever. I haven't really dove too deeply into the lyrics on this cut, but the music video is super trippy. And I'm just liking David Diggs' flow on this thing. And the instrumental seems texturally rich as well. Mick Jenkins with the song Drowning, Bad Bad Not Good, is on his new record. That's fantastic. Mick Jenkins, a couple of his tracks lately have been kind of underwhelming me, especially those tracks where he's singing a little bit more. Don't particularly feel all that great about his singing voice a lot of the time, but he seems to be a little bit more aggressive on this track and just kind of really sticking to his bars and sort of what he did so well on The Waters. And finally, the band Gatecreeper with the song Desperation. A little by the numbers as far as death metal goes, but still a really grimy, brutal, straightforward, fast, and throttling track with a lot of energy. Something that when I shared it on Twitter, there were people who weren't even into death metal, and they were like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool. And that's definitely something interesting about this track. It is rough around the edges, it is aggressive, and does have that grimy, blood-caked death metal sound, but there's something kind of accessible about it. You know, just the way that the guitars move and the pace and the groove of the song just seems really catchy, and just like anybody can listen to it and just be like, yeah, fuck, yeah, this is deadly, you know? So definitely give this track a listen, especially if you're kind of a death metal newbie, because this could certainly hook you in, I think. And those are my tracks of the week. My favorite tracks, the tracks I was kind of meh, and the worst tracks, in my opinion. Excuse me, that was disgusting. What did you think of all these songs? Did you love them, hate them, why? And what were some tracks that stuck out to you this week that maybe kind of slipped through the cracks over here for me? Sorry about that. I think we're going to leave it at that. I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you guys dealing with my ugly mug today. I'm looking pretty fucked up. And I promise I will be looking better this coming week. Had a bit of a rough weekend, y'all, but I'm recovering. Whew. All right. Again, all of these tracks are linked down there in the description box, so definitely give a listen to them down there. And if you want to support this segment, hit up our Amazon Associates link down there as well. If you click on that link, anything you buy on Amazon, if you live in the US, we get kickback from it. Does not add to your overall price. Supports the segment that I know a lot of you guys enjoy. Some of these videos have been getting like almost 100,000 views, which is pretty great. It would be awesome to be able to do these every week and turn you guys on to some good tracks and get some views in the process, baby. All right, that's it. Anthony Fantano, best and worst tracks of the week, forever.